Hello, welcome to Kissa Bazaar. I am Aastha Srivastava, and together you and I will explore stories and characters from our ordinary lives. The first story on this channel is called Santosh. This story has been written by Dilip Kapse, who spent his childhood in the jungles of Satpura. During these years, he came across many fascinating stories and provincial characters that left on him impressions for a lifetime. He has a gift for transforming the most ordinary events into unusual tales. One such story is Santosh. The story has been translated into English by Jayasri, Viswanathan. Let us begin. Santosh must have been about 27 or 28 years old back then. She was already a mother to 2 kids. Like other married women, her body was bulging with fat in various parts. But she had radiant, fair skin and dark hair that went down till her waist. She always stood out among other women because of her sharp features. She had such a flawless and glowing complexion that even acne on her face gave her a pretty, reddy blush. Santosh's husband used to work in the coal mines, and it was evident that he was significantly older than her. Some would say they were a mismatched couple, but even that mismatched couple made 2 beautiful children, both brown-haired and fair-skinned like their mother. I still remember those days of summer. My friends and I used to rush to the neighborhood playground to play cricket in the evenings, just when the heat would be bearable. Santosh often took her children out to play at this ground around the same time. She would take a stroll around the area while her kids played. I was taller than my friends, so my captain used to assign me for fielding on the boundary. Sometimes while fielding, the ball would cross me and land near Santosh. She would quietly pick up the ball and toss it back to me. There was nothing special about returning a ball, except that, unlike other irritable women of the locality, there was always a pleasant smile on her face. I always felt good seeing her there, smiling. In response, I used to smile meekly too. It was my way of thanking her, and probably she understood that well. I wouldn't have been more than 14 or 15 years of age at that time when I saw those 2 children playing near her. I used to address her as Auntie. Some other older boys used to call her Bhabiji. Clad in her bright colored sari, she always stood out in any crowd. The pallu of her sari would fall casually from her chest. Sometimes it would give us a peek into what it tried to conceal. For that, the gaze of all boys playing in that ground would remain fixed on her the entire time. They used to say crass things about her in hushed tones. She might have heard them many times, but chose to ignore. I never paid heed to such hearsays and continued to stay away from such things. My father was a government employee, much like others in the neighborhood. We used to live in government quarters. The benefit of living in such quarters was that we wouldn't get electricity and water bills, but long power cuts were regular occurrences. As townsfolk, we knew how to make the best out of these power cuts too. Women used these cuts to take a break from their long day of household work, men to gossip with neighbors, and young boys and girls to make eyes at each other. For my friends and me, life revolved around cricket. Sachin Tendulkar's innings and scores fueled our best years. I vividly remember that fateful day. Sachin had hit a century against Australia and single-handedly taken India to the finals of the Sharjah Cup. Cricket fans still remember that knock as Desert Storm. We were eagerly waiting for India to take on Australia in the finals, and were deeply engrossed in discussions. Suddenly, we heard some noise. There was a school next to our playground. We heard some boys there abusing each other, and before we realized what was happening, a few women joined them in bickering too. It is not unusual in towns to hear the neighbors fighting and creating a stir. We youngsters found them fun to watch. Let's say it was our little guilty pleasure. We thought it must be an ordinary brawl among local youth and decided to check it out. When we reached the spot, we saw that a gang of about 7-8 boys had surrounded a lone boy, and that poor fellow was holding his trousers with both hands. They shoved him around repeatedly as he attempted to escape from them. When his attempts failed, he sat on the ground and started crying. Before we could do anything to save him, I heard some women hurling abuses nearby. We followed these noises to the school veranda, where we saw a group of women attacking a woman. She was defenseless, just like the boy. One woman grabbed her hair and pulled it with all her strength. Another called her a hussy and slapped her across the cheek. But this woman didn't retaliate. Regardless of all those abuses, she kept pleading with them to let her go. She kept saying, "It will ruin my reputation. My husband will kill me. I will eat poison." In that rain of blows and cussing, this lone woman's honor was being ripped apart repeatedly. Her blouse was almost open, and she tried hard to shield her half-naked body by often pulling her sari upwards. A fat woman standing beside her would pull it down forcefully every time she would attempt to cover herself. It was a strange sight, women doing this sort of thing to another woman. Of course, it was dark, but it wasn't difficult to recognize those familiar faces. I finally identified that lone woman. She was Santosh. She was standing there nervously, looking very different from the smiling woman I saw every evening at the playground. She looked terrified, as if she were drowning in shame. Did Santosh survive that crowd of women? That too, after she was caught with a strange man. How did her husband react when he found out? To know the answers, wait for the next part of the story that we will present to you soon on this channel. Make sure you subscribe to Kissa Bazaar and press the bell icon so that you get an alert whenever we upload a new story.